You're probably here because you're finding it a little bit difficult in finding your way about leadership, finding your way on how to manage people well, and finding your way on how to grow your business as an entrepreneur. Any one of these things are the topics that we cover. I'm your host, Sean C., aka Mr. CEO at 22. I am so glad that you took the first step of being here to learn more about leadership, entrepreneurship, and management because the world needs more people like you. We will help you to invest in yourself because that's something that is worth doing. That is something that is worth learning. If you have questions about entrepreneurship, maybe you're having problems at work or you're having some leadership problems or managing other people, boy, I have news for you. We have what we call a masterclass. Most of the courses in the masterclass deal with how you can generate revenue online. It deals with leadership, how to lead in crisis, how to break through the crisis in business, in entrepreneurship, and how you can manage other people better. Now, I always say the best kind of investment is an investment in yourself. And how much money are we charging for this masterclass? Not a lot. And if you invest in one, it's yours to keep. And if it doesn't, I'll refund you, no questions asked, full refund. So why don't you try it out? Head on over to sean.c/masterclass and check out any one of the courses if it fits any one of the questions in your head. And if you have any questions, you can just put it on the comment section and we'll get in touch with you. We want to know who you are and we want to hear from you. Until then, keep leading.
All right. Hey guys, how's it going? Hello. It's another Thursday night and I'm here again in Leadership Stack Live. I hope you have had a good week and I'm very happy to be here again tonight to answer your questions. So before I start, I just want to share what we have going on in the Leadership Stack podcast over at Spotify. This week, we published 3 episodes, 2 episodes with Mr. Vince Warnock, and that is word of mouth marketing. Is it more effective? We do have an episode before with Mr. Harry Uy, and that is about word of mouth marketing as well. So you might want to check that out as well. And I do have our previous AMA here. That's episode 294 about time management. Is it a waste of time to do time management or to practice time management? How do you do it right? Should you really go for paid ads? If you're doing digital marketing or if you're a startup business owner and you're thinking about running your first paid ad right now on Facebook or on Instagram, this might be a good episode for you. And all our episodes, we try to keep it short and sweet, below 20 minutes. So it's going to be easy for you to tune in. Just listen to the exact piece of content that we promised you on the title, and then tune out and go ahead and practice that as well on your own. So I hope you go ahead and check out. And if you haven't followed us here yet, please do hit the follow button. That helps us a lot. And if this podcast gives value to you, please do help us by sharing it with friends, family, peers, and so on. All right. Hope that helps. If you haven't joined the Facebook group yet or the Discord channel, we do have the Facebook group at leadme.ph/Discord. Or if you're not yet in the Discord channel, you could go to the link that's scrolling down there from sean.c/Discord, and that is going to take you to our Discord channel where you can ask the questions that you will be seeing here later tonight. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to jump right in to the questions. So the first one is from Vian. How did you get your first client for SEO Hacker? How difficult was it? So the first client is a scuba diving company here in the Philippines, and it's a pretty sizable one. I think it was the biggest scuba diving company before, during its time. And how I got it was actually, I'd say it's a divine intervention or a divine appointment, because I was in a cruise in Hong Kong, and um, I didn't expect to meet this certain person there, and she was a lady, and we didn't know each other, and she just happened to be there. I just happened to be there, and she was just asking me stuff like, "What did you do for a living?"
And or what are you going to be doing? Because I was a fresh grad during that time, and I said, you know, I'm supposed to go into HP like in a month, and I'm gonna be working there, and I do SEO on the side as well. I was starting out SEO hacker during that time. It's a freelance gig, and it was my side hustle. So I said, you know, I do SEO. And during that time, this was way back 2009, and she lighted up and said, "Oh, SEO, my uncle needs that." And I said, you know, I was thinking, are we talking about the same thing? Because no one else in my circle of influence knew what SEO was. And I was surprised that she did, and I didn't have to explain it to her. So, you know, I said, are we talking about the same SEO? And she said, yeah, you know, search engine optimization. And she said, my uncle needs that. Why don't I refer you to him? And I said, sure, you know, that'd be amazing. But at the back of my head, I didn't think too much of it because we just met. She didn't know me. She didn't know my company. I didn't even have an um, an operating entity yet. No business registration whatsoever. And yeah, so she didn't forget about me. When we got back, she referred me to her uncle. Her uncle called me up and asked me to go to their office to present, which I did. And I wasn't prepared for that. I didn't have a proposal, contract, no logo. And my only portfolio was the God and You blog, which was a blog that I operated, and I wrote in there for about my faith as a single Christian guy, my journey as a single Christian guy. Yeah, and the blog articles still exist in my website sean.c/ideas. So if you go in that website, you'll still be able to find my past write-ups about my faith in there. And that blog was my only portfolio, which I presented to the owner of the scuba diving company, and he signed the contract. You know, for some reason he did agree to my rates. um yeah, I wouldn't say it was. I couldn't gauge the difficulty because all I had to do was show up. So I can't really say it was difficult or not difficult, right? I guess if I didn't show up, I wouldn't get the contract. I wouldn't get the deal. But it wasn't as if I was really trying to go for it, like I was looking for this client. It just kind of fell into my lap in a way because I met a random stranger in a cruise in Hong Kong. And that's why I say it's a divine appointment, because really I didn't plan that and she didn't plan that. And, you know, even if I was thinking, even if she did remember to refer me to her uncle, the chances are very slim that she would, you know, that I would get the deal. So I couldn't really say if it's difficult or not. It just happened. I just had to show up. I know it's a strange, perplexing answer to your question, but that's the truth. And yeah, hope that helps. How much should I charge as a beginner in SEO? As if I don't, this one I can't really. I don't know how much the going rate now is, but I know how much I charged before, and that's $1,000 a month, USD. So today I don't know what the going rate is. I guess it's really up to you. Um, it depends as well on how you do SEO. Because if you're doing it like how we do it in SEO Hacker, there's a lot of work involved, a lot of creativity involved, and a lot of strategy involved. You might charge that much higher. But if you're doing it
in a easier way, a faster way. Maybe you want to do it gray hat, do some shortcuts. I know that a lot of companies still do gray hat here. Then you could charge cheaper like they do. So, but for me, an SEO hacker, we do it white hat purely. So we do charge higher because of that. When did you know you were an entrepreneur? I only knew when I was actually an entrepreneur. It's not like I was determined to become one when I was younger. I didn't aspire to be one. It wasn't in my wish list, bucket list. I didn't think I would be an entrepreneur, actually. I just thought I'd climb the corporate ladder because that's what my peers were doing. That's what my dad wanted for me. So I thought I'd climb the corporate ladder. I didn't really think that I'd be an entrepreneur. But the best things in life I find, at least in my life, came from serving God and came from doing things for the Lord. I'm a born again Christian. Church I go to is CCF. I go to CCF Alabang. If you haven't been to church for some time, I encourage you to tune in on YouTube. We have our CCF online live stream every Sunday. And right now I think we're at what Uncover was it? Un- Uncover. We're in the Uncover series, and that's about uncovering the mysteries of the Bible and of God and learning more about how God thinks about us, about the world, about Himself, huh? And about the parables. Yeah, my wife's here. She's helping me out. Like all the brilliancy here comes from her. So, yeah, the best things in my life came from serving God, like my wife. I met my wife because I was serving God also. I was an usher in a building fun event for CCF. So my journey in becoming an entrepreneur came from that God and You blog. If I didn't start a blog for the Lord, which was a non-profit blog, because like how are you gonna monetize a blog about your faith, about the Bible, about God? You can't really think of like so many ways to make money from that, right? And even the ads, I remember the Google ads that was showing up for my blogs were like religious stuff that's not really in line with Christianity, like horoscopes and things. So I had to shut off all the ads from my website. So there was no way to make money from that blog. And yet I kept writing in that blog, hoping that someone somewhere in the world would be better for it. And God used that to bless me, a million times in my life. Hope that helps, and I hope that answer kind of added value to your question, because I know that there's a lot of people who will tell you they really wanted to be rich or to be secure. That's why they tried entrepreneurship. My story is extremely different. And yeah, it's all about faith. Life is all about faith for me. Question from Rudy: how can a person know that he or she is prepared to start his or her business aside from capital and resources? If you truly believe in the value that you're going to be providing your target market, I think that kind of conviction is very important. So, when I started SEO Hacker, and I have experienced for myself the power of SEO because my blog readers in the God and You blog started growing. I started getting more subscribers. I realized how powerful SEO is and how badly companies will need it, especially here in the Philippines where our user base in terms of Google is very high. So my conviction for SEO was extremely strong during that time. And this is a time 2009, 2010. That's a time when like companies didn't even think about digital marketing. Companies didn't even put like I don't know, they didn't even put like 5% of their budget in digital marketing during that time. So I had to have a very strong conviction for me to go ahead and really go for doing SEO as a business, because the companies that Even companies that started asking me to present to them about SEO, they had no idea what SEO is. So I will have to still explain to them what SEO is, why it's good for their company, how it affects their website, how it affects their customers. Imagine they're the ones who asked for the meeting with me and they're asking me to explain what SEO was. That's how naive the market was during that time. So I guess aside from capital and resources, you have to have a very strong conviction about the value that you will be bringing to your target market. So for me, it was SEO, and I knew it was just a matter of time before a lot of companies would need it, and we are seeing some of that even today. I think right now the market, like I think their marketing budget of bigger companies today has shifted to like 30% at least. It used to be like 1 to 5%, but now I think it's at 30%, which is still pretty good and healthy growth. Um, I still don't think it's at 50% of their marketing budget though. So we can only really say that the Philippines, has entered the digital age. I think it's when companies would have at least 50% of their marketing budget in digital. So we're not there yet. And that's the reason why I think that it's still growing, and my conviction is still strong that SEO is providing one heck of a value for companies who need it. How do you build a successful customer base? Well, when you say successful customers, these are customers who have experienced what you promised them, what you told them would happen with your product or your service. That for me is a successful customer. And having a lot of successful customers is when you deliver the value you promised them, when you're truthful to your word. What you said actually happened. So the more people or companies who experience your promise, then the more successful customers you have. And when you actually deliver what you promise, and maybe even more, then you don't just satisfy them, you delight them. And when you delight them, usually they would go on and spread the word of mouth information about you and your business and how you went the extra mile. I think that is pretty much the only way to build a successful and happy customer base who will be talking about your business and sharing it with friends and family. What is your favorite aspect of being an entrepreneur? I love the fact that I get to spend more time with family and friends as well. Like, it is ironic that you can dictate what you want to do with your time, but you also cannot dictate what you want to do with your time because you have to work so hard and you have to work long hours. I guess it's just having the choice of when you want to spend most of your time working and when you want to spend time not working. The freedom of choosing what you're going to be doing on what day and time is, I would say, one of my favorite aspects of being an entrepreneur. Another one would be respect. The world respects people are who hold themselves to a certain level of excellence, and that builds a platform for me to be able to share my values, my ideas, and my faith to people who are willing to listen in the world. You guys are tuned in right now, and that, I would say, my achievements and productivity at work and in the market might have contributed to that, right? For my authority and for what I know, that's the reason why people listen. If I haven't accomplished much in my life, I don't think people would listen to my advice. Maybe they'd listen to my jokes, hopefully, but not my advice because I really wouldn't have accomplished much. And if I didn't accomplish much, then people shouldn't be listening to me. So I guess that's one more aspect of being an entrepreneur that is important to me or is a favorite aspect of mine. Next question. Knowing what you know now, Is there anything you would have done differently when you were first starting out? Yeah, I'd probably hire slower and fire faster. I'd hire slower and fire faster. But really, if I didn't go through what I went through, I wouldn't be able to learn those lessons and be where I am now. I went through a series of rotten employees during the past, and that helped me to learn what I needed to do and how I needed to change. So I guess I really had to go through that, because if I didn't, then I wouldn't know what I knew now. I wouldn't be able to give advice as well as I do now to other entrepreneurs who are starting out. So yeah, but if there's anything I'd done differently, it's probably hire slower and fire faster. Also, I'd look for more mentors. I'd look for more mentors. The thing about mentors is a lot of them, like, they they teach you for free, and they really have your best intentions at heart if you practice what they give you as an advice, or if they see that there's something happening with the advice and time they're spending with you. So I make it a point where, with the things that I'm learning, I really apply it to my business. So the next time that I approach the mentor, I'd be able to say, these are the things that we applied, and these are the things I learned from you last time, and this is what I did with them. So mentors who don't, like, if when people ask me for mentorship, kasi, and I don't see anything improving or happening with what I'm teaching them, with the time I'm spending with them, then it's a waste of time generally. You could stay friends, but you shouldn't you shouldn't be mentor mentee if you're not gonna follow the advice anyway. So yeah, that's gonna be the answer to that question. Next question is, how has the landscape changed versus when I was first starting out? Landscape. When you say landscape, is it like the digital marketing landscape? This question is pretty vague, but I would just answer it from that angle. Digital marketing. Um, if you were tuned in since earlier, I mentioned that the budget for digital marketing way back 2010 was like 1 to 5%. It's definitely much bigger now. Now I think it's like 30% for a lot of companies, but yeah, that's a huge change, because the more companies investing in digital, then the more steam digital gets, and the competition is definitely getting tighter. In terms of SEO, the more companies that enter the SEO field, the tougher the competition will be as well. And I do think that companies with the best SEO, companies or agencies backing them up, would come out on top, because there's only one number one spot when it comes to search results. So SEO is getting more competitive. It's still not very competitive, but it is getting more competitive. In some industries, it is very competitive. Like in the real estate industry, it's very, very competitive. In the secondhand car financing industry, or secondhand car for sale industry, it's very, very competitive. So it depends on what industry, um, in specific, we're trying to cover. But yeah, it's generally getting more competitive. How do we cope with those changes? We're always at the cutting edge. We read news about Google, we read news about SEO, we apply them, we experiment. At any point in time, we are trying new different things in the company, not just with our processes, but with how we can beat search results better and faster and more often and with more success for all our clients. And that's why our clients do experience first page rankings for the keywords that we guarantee. So when they're in the first page, they experience more traffic, more relevant traffic, which turns into leads, which turns into sales, and everyone's happy. We do have a question from LinkedIn. Hi, Amita. And her question is how to build a brand, I guess. Brand building is all about casting your identity. right? And being consistent about it. So you look at Nike and you look at um, Coca Cola, they're pretty consistent with who they are. Nike's slogan is just do it, right? I mean, anyone could remember that because that's always been their slogan. Coca-Cola has always have had that red Coca-Cola red kind of red, and that logo is pretty consistent. When you think about their competition, it's not as consistent. Like for example, there was one time that Adidas would have the slogan "Impossible is nothing," which I think is a brilliant slogan, but they changed it soon after, like sooner than I expected them to change it. And I guess sooner than most people expected them to change it. And now I don't know what their slogan is, right? I know how their logo looks like. I don't know what their slogan is, so I don't know what exactly they stand for. Nike commercials would always be honoring great athletes. It's really not about their shoes or their products. It's about honoring great athletes. That's all their commercials are about. And their competitors, I don't even know or remember what their commercials are, right? So branding is all about consistency in casting your vision. Nike's vision, just do it. Their consistency is the same logo, it's the same tagline over the years. That's how you build a very strong brand. Hope that helps, Amita. How do you ensure your company remains better than your competitors? I think it's the culture that you have in the team. If you're able to build really good processes, you're able to build a really good company culture, and you hire the right people and you put them in the right seats in your company, that makes for a really good company. In terms of competition, I I'm the type of guy where I don't really like looking at what other companies are doing. So I'm more concerned about what we are doing right. And what there are a few things that I'm sure we have to be ahead of. Not everything. So I don't really look at competition and say, "Oh, they have more people than us. We should have as much people as they are." "Oh, we they have so many clients in this country. We should have as much clients there as they do." I don't care about those things. Those things are not important to me. But there are metrics that are very important to me, and that's what I look at, and that's what I focus on. So you have to know, you have to choose your battles so that you can win in those battles that matter to you. In terms, yeah, I think just to add to this question, it's not looking at your competitors is not so great. You just have to look at the road you're traveling on and see how well you're doing, how well you're pacing in terms of how well you compete with yourself. You know, triathletes would have this term, do your own time. Like, not a lot of people would have first, second, or third place, gold, silver, bronze medals. Not a lot of people would be able to stand in the podium because there's like tens of thousands of people competing in triathlons. So if you are a triathlete, usually you would just be concerned about your own time. How well did you do last year? How well are you doing this year? That's it's similar with entrepreneurship, at least with my style of entrepreneurship and leadership. I try to do my own time, beat my own records, and that's it. Don't look to the right or to the left. That's going to add to your anxiety, and you might not even be running in a racetrack that you want to be in. So just stick to your own road. How do you keep up with innovation in your industry? Hmm. Yeah, so I mentioned this earlier. It's more about knowing the cutting edge, reading news, information, looking at patents. Um, Google has a lot of patents. There are people who are experts with Google patents, like Bill Slawski, the author of SEO by the Sea. It's a blog, and you should check that out. And he is on Twitter. So we look at those patents as well because Google patents are usually ideas by Google that they have applied for patents already, so it cannot be copied by other companies like Bing or Microsoft. And the ideas are not yet solid, but they're gonna applying it someday. So usually we look at patents, like how is it going to affect SEO someday. We also run our own experiments in house. There are so many experiments that we're running, so we have identified and uncovered a lot of ways to make sure that we rank and our clients rank on Google in a very broad amount of time. We call it evergreen. We're always going to rank evergreen. So it's all about, yeah, being innovative, having a lot of experiments, be willing to make mistakes. Sometimes you make the wrong bet. It's fine. You learn from it, you grow, and you get to know what works better. How do you know if being an entrepreneur is for you? Uh, if you enjoy it, that I know some people, they don't like the stress of being an entrepreneur. They don't like thinking about other people, their employees, being on payroll. I know some people who just want to get off of work when it's 5 p.m. or when it's 6 p.m. They just want to think about their computer games, their family, their Netflix series, Korean telenovelas. Yeah, I know some people who just want to shut off and shut down after working hours. If you're that kind of person, entrepreneurship is not for you. 100%. There's no way you can make it being a businessman or a businesswoman if you're that kind of person. But if you're someone who likes to hustle, who likes bringing value and providing value to people, your team, your employees, your clients, your customers, then I think entrepreneurship might be good for you. And if working hours and work life balance is not a very big deal for you, as it is with other people who have, more of an employee mindset, then I think entrepreneurship might be good for you. But if work life balance is a big deal for you, like you want balance with your work time and with your relaxed time or with your spare time, there's no way you're gonna make it as an entrepreneur. No way, zero chance. So you'd better just stick to being an employee if work life balance is a big deal for you. And that answers the next question. Is everyone meant to be an entrepreneur? No, not everyone. Because if everyone was an entrepreneur, then no one would be an employee, right? And we need employees. Entrepreneurs need employees. We can't all be entrepreneurs. We can't all be business people. We can't all be having just one profession. There has to be a certain mix, a healthy mix. Are successful entrepreneurs born or made? Of course, we're born. There's no way an entrepreneur was not born, right? We're all born naturally, and then we learn. We make a lot of mistakes and fail a lot, and we pay for our tuition fees by getting back up and trying again. So I would say a successful entrepreneur, well, 100% all people are born. I've never met anyone who was not born. um, but yeah, but successful entrepreneurs, they are people who have had their own experiences of failures. I know a lot of entrepreneurs have a good list of failures under their belt. Me included, I haven't failed, like, I wouldn't say I really failed in business, but I failed a lot in college. That counts, right? I still had to like chow down all of my failures there and learn from it and then apply what I've learned and how I felt to starting my own business. Can you provide warning signs that you're not meant to be an entrepreneur? Well, if you're feeling burned out at the first year, that's a really bad sign. I felt my first burnout. I would say I was already like 4 or 5 years doing business before I felt my first burnout. And in my first 4 or 5 years, I was working like crazy, like a crazy person, literally. I can't believe how much I worked in those years. Now, when I look back, I can't believe how crazy I was working that amount, that many hours and that amount of hard work. So yeah, I think if in the first year you're already feeling burned out and you feel discouraged, that's a pretty good sign that maybe entrepreneurship is not for you. But also take my advice with a grain of salt because I was young when I was doing my first business, when I was building it. I was 21, 22.
Did I get lost? Okay. I was 21 years old when I was freelancing with SEO Hacker. But when I registered it in DTI as an official business and BIR, I was 22. So somewhere 21, 22. So I was young. So I hustled like crazy, which is great. I had that opportunity to do that. Not a lot of people do have the opportunity to hustle as hard as I did because some people would start at the latter age. But that is not a disadvantage because when you're more advanced in age, you have better connections, you have a better idea of what's good and what's not good in terms of risk management. So there are pros and cons. It's just that in my case, God gave me the SEO hacker pretty early on. And what I had to do was hustle really hard. And I could because I was younger, I didn't have a family, no wife, and I could take a lot of risks. So, yeah, hope that helps in terms of warning signs. Any advice how to overcome procrastination? You have to put your goal in front of you. That's number one. So, for example, if you want to write a book, and writing a book is like giving, it's the closest thing to a guy giving birth, if you're a guy. Right? It's pretty difficult. It takes a long time. Takes a lot of coordination between you, your editor, your designer, your layout artist, your publisher, your distributor. It takes a lot of coordination. So if you have a goal of publishing a book, then you know that it's a very long, tough goal. Putting that before you every day, like putting that goal on paper, putting it like taping it in your mirror every morning, that helps you remember, oh, this is a goal of mine. By December 2021, I should already have a book and it should be in some bookstores here in the Philippines or in Lazada and Shopee. That's it. So having your goal before you helps deal with procrastination, helps lessen it. Another thing is to prioritize your time and also straighten out your habits. In the book Atomic Habits, James Clear says that there are certain cues for our brains. And for example, you have a cue of smelling coffee in the morning every time you pass by at work. That incites a craving in your brain of drinking coffee. And we have cues sometimes when we're in a blank state. We're not thinking of anything, we're not doing anything, but we have something to do in the next 5-10 minutes. But in that blank state, it becomes a cue for our brains to open Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever it is, and we spend so much time there. So it could be like 25, 30 minutes, an hour has passed by, and you missed the things that you should be doing and you procrastinated just because you gave into that cue. That cue created the craving, that blank state of mind, not doing anything, not thinking about anything, not working about anything. It created a craving for you to open some entertainment, social media, whatever it is. And before you know it, you've procrastinated already. So, straightening out your habits, making sure that you are in charge of your cues and you make sure your environment has the right cues in place and you eliminate anything that would start a negative cue for you. That is very important. That is one of the best ways to also eliminate or overcome procrastination. What are the skills required to succeed as an entrepreneur? Number one would be communication skills. Number two would be focus. And number three would be um, Number three would be negotiation. So, first is communication. Why I say communication is, if the biggest mistake in communication is the thought that it has actually transpired, that you were able to communicate, but the other party actually didn't understand what you said. That's the biggest mistake in communication. And communication is vital as an entrepreneur because you are communicating with so many people, your customers, your target market, your employees, or your people in the team. And when they cannot really understand you and what you're trying to say, then you wouldn't be able to sell. You wouldn't be able to close a deal. You wouldn't be able to hire the right people. You wouldn't be able to inspire your people to stay or to produce for you. There are so many things that could go wrong if you are not a good communicator. So one of the things that I have been blessed with as a talent is the gift of writing. I know I love writing. That is something that is has always been uh, a desire of mine, is to write books, write stuff. I just like writing in general, and that comes almost hand to hand with the ability to communicate well. Because if you become better and better in your writing skills, and you read and read and read, that's actually one of the ways you become better in writing, is you read a lot of books. Then you become a better communicator consequently. And yeah, the other thing that you need is focus, because if you're always distracted, you wouldn't be able to do deep work. Read that book by Cal Newport, Deep Work. That's a very good book. And deep work is all about being 1 to 3 hours into the work that you need, that's important, not urgent but important, and that moves mountains for an entrepreneur, especially when you're starting out. So when I was building SEO Hacker, I wrote a lot of articles in the blog, and I would answer comments, and I would market the articles that I was writing in SEO Hacker. That's how I got a lot of links to the blog. That's how I got a lot of features in other blogs that are big and has a very popular name and domain name. So focus is very important in a very distracted, on-demand world that we live in today. It is actually a rare thing that you see someone with very good focus. And lastly, it's negotiation. You need to be good in your negotiation skills, because when someone tries to lowball you, and that happens, it's more often than you think. With They lowball you with the price that you're trying to get from the market, then if you're not a good negotiator, it's either a no deal or a lose win. Like, you lose, they win, because you gave it for a low price. And yeah, and long term, if you're always getting loose wins, you got a lower price than you like, you're also not going to be serving the clients as well as you want them to be served, and as well as they want to be served long term. So you're not going to get a really good reputation in the market. So having good negotiation skills where you achieve win-win, and for me, it should always be win-win. If it's going to be lose win or win lose, then it's better to have no deal. If you will have win-wins for like 90% of your deals, that would be really good for your business. And that is a skill, I think, that is critical for an entrepreneur. Wow, we have a long question from Nino. And yeah, I got an offer to be part of the team of a new venture, and I'm contemplating about joining since I also have my own venture. Joining them will spearhead my learning process, which I can also apply to my venture, but doing so will sacrifice my time for my startup. What do you suggest? Well, I know that you raised funds, or you got to secure funding for your venture, Nino. So I like, if you have secured that funding, you've signed the deal, and your investors expect results in X amount of time, I think you should just focus on your venture or on your startup, because now you have people who are relying on you to produce results. And if you join another venture, it might not be good for you in the sense that your investors wouldn't be happy, and the investment world is not like it's a small world. People know people in the investment world. So when a certain investor would say something not that's not good about you, it goes around. So if you have secured investment for your venture, I suggest that you focus on it and don't join this other venture first. The time for joining other ventures and learning from them, if you have secured funding for your own venture, is over. The only way you can really learn and skyrocket your growth now is by making mistakes in your own venture. And that's it. And if you have secured that funding, then that funding actually allows you to pay for your own mistakes and your own, that's your tuition fee for your own mistakes that you're going to be doing in your own venture. Just make sure that those mistakes are not fatal or colossal in nature. Otherwise, you're going to be out of business anyway, and it's still not going to be good for your reputation. How long do you plan ahead? Do you have roadmaps for specific time frames? Not really. Not really. I don't think I'm there yet where we have like strategic planning for Q1, Q2, Q3 of next year. My business is still not at the enterprise level. It's just a decade old. I mean, I know businesses that are like 30 years old or older, and they still don't have like Q1, Q2, or Q3 plans, and they don't have the processes that SEO Hacker has right now. So I think we are gonna be there someday where we are planning ahead in terms of quarterly budgets or timelines or milestones. But right now for SEO Hacker, we're not there yet. We're still at the stage where we are still improving our processes to be more flexible for certain different clients, because we do have processes, but some of them are too stiff and strict, and we want them to be more flexible. And doing that, stretching out your processes, is a pretty difficult and delicate thing to do. And we are starting to realize that right now with my team and with my execom. So I hope that helps. Have you ever considered expanding SEO Hacker to different countries? Yes, but we want to get things right first here, because if we're not able to keep our clients in a very high rate for a very long time, and for most of our clients we have, but there are still clients who churn, and I think could have been prevented. Those churns could have been prevented if we don't get that right first. Then expanding to other countries would mean that we would still be making those mistakes and would be making them in a faster way, because another country would have another different culture that we also have to study, and we have to learn their language, how to speak their language right, or how to deal business with them in their way. We have to adapt to them because they're going to be our potential clients, right? So I still want to hone our craft, master our craft here in the Philippines before we expand to other countries. But we do have that in mind as well. And we are looking for partners as well to explore where to expand to, even today. As much as I love the concept of my startup, there is a lot of loopholes, therefore I must pivot, but pivoting will entirely change the concept. Loopholes, well, if there are loopholes, like entrepreneurs were problem solvers, really. We solve some of the world's biggest problems. You look at Bill Gates, he solved the problem of computing software being extremely expensive during his time and not being portable to the the home. And he solved that. You look at Steve Jobs and the problem that he solved, even if it was not that bigger during his time when he revived Apple, it's still pretty darn good, right? 1,000 songs in your pocket, which is the iPod, which revolutionized Apple for a second go. And as entrepreneurs, we solve problems. So your startup idea has a loophole or has a lot of loopholes. Those are problems. There are ways to solve problems. There are solutions to those problems. In the off chance that there is really zero ways for you to address those problems, then I do agree that you have to pivot. But those pivots might not really be necessarily huge or wide swings or wide pivots, could be small pivots. I'd say that you have to try running your business first, even at a small minute scale, just to see where you're going to hit roadblocks and where you're going to be overcoming those loopholes that you thought were fatal or big loopholes that you couldn't overcome or that you couldn't address. That's how you know that, um, these things that I was worrying about weren't a big deal at all. It's really when you start your operations already, when you start your business already. So I don't know where you are, Nino. I really don't, in terms of your venture. But if you ask me, try to do it first. Try to launch it first at a small scale, and then you'll really figure out if those pivots are necessary, and if those loopholes are unsolvable, so that you really must pivot. That's how I would. That's the advice I'd give you, and hope that helps. Okay. Next question: how big of a part does passion play in managing a business? Managing, not a lot. Starting a business, growing a business, it has a good part to play. But managing a business, not a lot. When you say management, it's more of status quo, right? Status quo, making sure things operate the same. That's what management is. Making decisions day to day so that things stay the same, or things are predictable, or things are consistent. That's what management is. And I think passion has not a lot of part to play when you say management. But when you say leading, starting, or growing a business, then passion has a good part to play. Because if you're not passionate about the business, there's no way that you're gonna sacrifice a lot for it. Management is less about sacrifice and more about making people produce the same amount of things. So, yeah, hope that helps. Hope that answers the question. How important is it to get investors for your business? It depends on the kind of business that you're going to be starting. But if it's like for me, it's always better to go bootstrap, which is fund your own thing. Because if you really believe in your idea and in your business, it shouldn't be hard for you to find your own funding for it. Because if you're going to get an investor early on and they're going to be driving you, making some of the decisions for you, or kind of like pushing you to a corner to make certain decisions, or asking you for certain outputs early on, pressuring you, giving you more anxiety and stress, that's something that I really wouldn't want. But also the reason why I started business is I want more time freedom. I really don't want more money in terms of like I want to be like a billionaire or multimillionaire. That's not why I started business. I wanted to start business because of more time freedom. So it depends on why you're starting a business. I guess if you're in it for the money and you want to have X amount of money by X amount of years, then maybe having investors would be a good idea. Or if you don't have the capital, you really don't have the capital and you need like a significant amount of capital, then getting an investor or getting investors would be a good idea because that's pretty much the only way you could go. If your business is a brand new concept, a novel concept in the tech industry, getting an investor might also be good for you because there are investors that are really big names in the tech field where if they invest in you, people would hear about you, you'd be in the news and get featured, and you get momentum immediately, right? So there are reasons or certain scenarios when investors getting investors is good, but not for all businesses. And that is not how I built SEO Hacker as well. So hope that gives clarity to the question. Hey Nino, thank you so much. Saved me years of worth of mistakes. No problem. I'm glad that this podcast has helped, and I'm really glad you're part of the community and always helping to sharing our stuff. We are blessed because you're here. And yeah, I guess that's the last question. And before I let you guys go, I just want to say that we are giving away leadership stack t-shirts. So I am wearing one right now, and I know you guys can't see it because it's down here, right? But we got a video of it, and when we're gonna be doing the giveaway is not yet final. We're still building the giveaway platform right now. But once the link is out, I'll be sharing it to you guys. So yeah, this is the shirt, motion before emotion. Inspiration comes after you act, but better to show you the video reel. Go, shot like a true commercial by the Leadership Stack team. I didn't shoot that one. It's the Leadership Stack team. That's how awesome they are. And I'm very proud to be working with this team right here. So yeah, once the giveaway link is out, I'll be sharing it with you guys, and please do help us to spread the word out. We have a lot of shirts to give away, so I hope you guys are looking forward to joining. And I hope that this Leadership Stack Live has provided for value for you tonight, and I hope to see you next week.